Hey guys, Dantics here. Star Wars Zero Company is my absolute game of the year, but there's no denying that if you want to thrive in the game, there are a few things you need to know. EA reached out and asked if I could help by making the Ultimate Beginner's Guide. In it, I'm going to run through everything you need to know about combat, companions, bonds, and the Den in order to get the very most out of the campaign. Timestamps are below, and let's get right into it, starting with combat. You begin every combat by going first. The first thing you want to do is just assess the area, look around, see where your enemies are. So we have a few enemies here and we have a few enemies over here. You can also inspect them individually by hovering over them and pressing F or the associated button on the controller. You can see their health, their defense, if they have any buffs, passives, and so on. You can also see in yellow that we have an objective. You can see use save cracker on security chest. So we have to send someone over there and start cracking that chest, and then we'll have to hold the line in this section here. Now, how do you do that? We have 3 action points per operative to spend on every turn, and we also have advantage that we build up every time we take a shot and land it against an enemy, as well as do other things like a scout, for example, using combat recon. By doing so, he can get some advantage, and you can spend that advantage on powerful abilities. Now, with the action points, you can spend these in any order you want. So I could go over to, say, Trick. I could have him move up to, say, here. I could then have Hawks do the same thing, move up here. And then I could have Luco do something else. So you don't have to take the turn in order of operators. You can take your action point in any order that you see fit. And the reason this is good is because you can set up particular combos. So I could, for example, set Luco to Overwatch, and then I could send Trick over there to push someone into that Overwatch, therefore making him take a shot before the turn is up. Another thing to note is at the start of every turn, one of your operators will have the ability to call for backup. Calling for backup lets them pick one of your other operators. Let's just make it Trick for now. And Trick will now provide backup so long as he has vision of the target that you're firing upon. So if we fire long arm blaster, you'll see here that he doesn't have any line of sight, so he won't be able to hit this target if Luco fires a shot. So what we can do is we can send Trick a little bit closer, and as you can see, when I press the move action, there is a 3-tier radius system. The first tier is his first movement that costs 1 action point. You can see that denoted with the 1. Moving a little bit further is 2 action points, and moving a little bit further is 3. So if you sprint the full distance, you're using all your action points. There are ways to get it back, which I'll show you soon with the droid there. But for now, let's just use the 1 action point to get up closer. You can see he has vision of all of those targets down there at that location. 65% for this guy over here. He had 65 over here and 100 there. So that means that he has line of sight if he does make the movement over there. So let's do it. So now he has line of sight of all those targets. If we were to fire a shot with Luco now, we would get the assist. Before we do that though, we want to set him up so he does a little bit more damage. Here is an example of using an ability. This ability here, Zero In, costs 1 AP. You can see the AP above the name, and this increases his chance to hit and critical chance by an amount. So let's activate that. You can see here it's used 1 AP. He has 2 AP left, so does Trick. To fire his long arm blaster, this one costs 2 AP. So let's do that. It's a 90% chance to hit. This means there's a 10% chance to miss. This target has 1 armor. That means it's going to block 1 damage coming towards it. The estimated damage amount is 14. The target has 38 health. He's an outlaw enforcer. In this screen, we can just press F and expect the unit further. We don't need to. So let's confirm and fire. We landed the hit, and then Trick follows up with the assisted shot. Assisting always hits. So even if Luco missed his shot just there, Trick would have landed his hit, and assisting does a little bit more damage based on their buffs. But you'll go through that when you go through specializations. So now that Luco took that shot, he is done for the turn unless he uses advantage. One such use of advantage is this combat gas talent that he has. It costs 2 advantage, so he's able to use it even without any action points, but let's just hold off for now. Let's go through utilities. Now Trick has 2 utilities. He has Surgeon Tools and he has a Droid Popper. Droid Poppers are good against droids, not so good against these human targets here, but what is good is something like an impact bomb or a fire bomb. The droids have the ability to carry more of these utilities, so let's get him up a little closer. I'll put him in harm's way just so you can see how much easier it is for the enemies to hit him if he's in harm's way. He moves on over there, and now we can use the impact bomb. Let's do so. You can see it has a radius, so we want to get as many enemies as we can within that radius. Let's use the fire bomb, and you can see the radius is slightly bigger, so different bombs, higher ranks will have a bigger radius, do more damage, and so on. So let's fire that off. And our droid friend has started burning all these hapless enemies alive. So those are utilities. You have different utilities that you can use. As you can see, they consume AP as well. Now let's talk about cover. You'll see that standing out in the open gives him no bonus. If we were to put our character into half cover here, denoted by the half shield icon just above the location, that would give him a half cover bonus. If we put him into full cover, that will give him a full cover bonus. So let's do just that. Now, any enemies firing from this location will have a very high chance to miss the target. You see, the same applies to them. So this guy is out in the open. There's a higher chance to hit. If we press T, we can see the breakdown, the hit chance. Because of the range and he's using a pistol, there's a -5% to that. But if we go on over to the guy behind cover, you'll see there's a -35% chance to hit him because he is behind that half cover. And the same goes with this Outlaw Marauder here. The bonus is larger if you're behind full cover. If we were to fire upon this enemy and miss, it would attempt to destroy the cover he's standing behind. So even if you miss, you might still destroy the cover he's located behind, like so. And now any follow-up attacks against that target, as you can see, he doesn't have the cover bonus. So getting behind cover is pretty valuable if you don't want to take any damage, and it's very valuable for your enemies as well. You can see now I'm guaranteed to hit him. Now let's talk about melee. Some characters have melee attacks like the Assault and the Soldier class. The Assault has Bull Rush. It gives you a little bit extra range when you're going to use it. Normally, if you want to attack a target but they're further away than your range, you have to move to them and then attack. Usually moving costs 1 to 3 action points and attacking costs 1 to 3 action points. But with a melee attack, you move and attack within the same amount of action points. So if you would have moved a 2 action point distance, you instead move and attack within that 2 action points, if that makes sense. Now, obviously Hawks is in danger here by putting himself out in the open. There's ways you could keep him safe, like for example, using the Heavy class to taunt targets. So just by shooting a target, if you're the Heavy, you can put this taunt debuff on them, forcing this character to attack Trick here. So we know at least one of these enemies aren't going to be attacking Hawks. Also keep in mind there are enemies over there, but they're a little bit further away, so I'm not too worried about them just yet. Now we have another action point on our astromech here, and it has an ability built in comlink to give an action point to a character. So I'm going to give it to Hawks here, just so we can get the ball rolling with the objective in the middle, so you can see how that goes. All you need to do is either walk over to it and use the safe cracker by clicking on it, or pressing escape and just left clicking on the objective in question. There we go. Now we need to defend this region for a set amount of time, so 3 turns. Because there are enemies within it, it's contested and this number won't tick up, so we do need to kill these enemies. Now we've gotten 7 advantage, so we might as well use some of it, right? Let's do so with this ability, Sweeping Salvo. A good example of how to use it. It won't quite kill these enemies, it will kill this one over here, so let's give it a shot. So for 7 advantage, we killed this target and we made the other disoriented. As you can see here, it's reduced chance to hit. So advantage lets you do things outside of your natural action points, like for example, giving Trick another action point for 3 advantage, one of Hawks' abilities. Now that Trick has another action point, you can follow up with any of those things that cost 1 action point, like the droid popper, like healing, like giving a combat stim to his allies because he is a medic. So let's do that. This is something I usually do at the start of every combat because it gives your allies a big buff if you're the medic. So the stimulant gives them range damage and melee damage and max health. But if you want a more in-depth look at all of the specializations, I definitely recommend checking out my video below. But now that Hawks has a stimulant, he has a higher chance of surviving the onslaught that's most likely going to be coming his way. Then all we have left to do is end the turn because we have no other actions, we have no more advantage. So let's see how it plays out. Naturally, of course, Hawks is getting attacked because he's within their range. The rest of the enemies are getting into range to try to disrupt us. The melee combatants are going ahead and attacking those close to them. The ranged ones are trying to flank us and get us out of cover so their chance to hit is higher. Luckily, they went ahead and missed all of our operatives except Hawk there. Now, I want to talk about the bond system. We have randomly the call for backup on Hawks this time. Where the call for backup happens is random from what I've seen. This time it's on Hawks, so let's click on that and click on Trick. Just because he called for backup with Trick, their bond has increased. Think of a bond as experience. We'll go through that when we're at the den, but you want to raise your bonds with your allies as much as possible. It makes your characters much stronger. Another way to raise bonds is to aid your allies. One such example is to give a stim pack to Hawks here, healing him up, and also giving them bond, as you can see above their head. So what we'd need to do to finish this mission is clear out the remaining enemies and hold this position for 3 turns. Let me attempt to do that. First, I'll fire the long arm blaster, and as you can see there, we crit. Every attack has a chance to crit, and you can improve this by improving your bonds, upgrading your weapons by giving them different mods, and getting different skills you can unlock with the points you get from increasing your bond rank. So now that this area is clear, it goes green, and we just have to hold this for 3 turns. And over time, the enemies will get more reinforcements and so on. And that would be this particular mission, this particular side mission. Now, all abilities can be used as long as you have AP. They can be used a certain amount of times per combat. For example, combat gas can only be used once per combat. You also have certain abilities that can only be used once a turn. For example, Unstoppable here is once a turn. His droid popper is once per combat. So once you use this grenade, it's not gone for good. You just can't use it again this combat. And then there are some abilities that end your turn. One such example is Overwatch here. It ends your turn, paints an area, and any enemy that walks through the little area you paint, your character will fire upon. And they'll be able to fire upon different enemies, the amount of AP that you spend. So if I spend 2 AP here, he'll be able to fire twice before the start of his next turn. If he's attacked before he attacks, it'll knock him out of Overwatch. But let's put it on just so you can see how it works. And again, let's do it with Luco here. If I paint the target where they're standing, there's a high chance that if they take an action, you'll immediately fire upon them before they're able to move or before they're able to shoot back. So most actions, unless they're fast actions like this 0 in here, will trigger Overwatch if there is this blue painted area over them. This also applies to you. If an enemy puts Overwatch on you, unless it's a fast action, if you try to move out or if you try to shoot, you'll get fired upon first before doing anything. Now, you have a chance when enemies are running through your Overwatch to stop them completely and to kind of end their turn, but that is a small chance. So let's finish off the targets here. Trick is going to back me up and finish it off. So instead of trying to kill this target, I might leave him so you can see how the Overwatch works.
Still got it.
So this one will stay alive. And then I might just get our little droid friend over here into cover, just so he's out of harm's way and we can start attacking that combatant over there. So let's pass the turn and you can see how Overwatch works. So as he tries to run away, Trick will take a shot. It shocks him. As this guy tries to run away, Luco will take a shot. And you can see here, movement was cancelled. So that was that small chance of cancelling movement like I mentioned before, if you take a shot at them while they're trying to run through your Overwatch. This is reinforcement, so the start of the next turn, we know that enemies are coming through this door. So what we could do is, with what we just learned, Overwatch, we could Overwatch and paint that area knowing that enemies are coming through and knowing we will get some shots off. Now you get a chance to hit bonus if you're on the high ground. Let me show you how that works here. So because we're up close, we have a high chance to hit, but if I was to get up to the high ground here, there's an even higher chance to hit, even though it doesn't mention it. The final thing is there are explosives laden about most maps. If you have the sabotage talent, you can blow them up from anywhere. However, if you don't, you can click on one of your characters, let's say Hawks here, and then click on the thing you want to sabotage. It's going to cost 1 AP. You confirm. If you got line of sight, you'll be able to fire upon it and blow it up. If enemies are next to it, they're going to take damage. Sometimes it's a smoke vent and that will keep whatever's around it hidden and be harder to hit. Sometimes it will shock them, sometimes it'll burn them. It just depends on the map. Now, if an operator goes down in combat, they're not dead just yet. What happens is they get knocked to the ground and they need to be rallied to be put back into combat. Now, they also get an injury. You can see here, operators cannot fight effectively and suffer a minus 15% chance to hit penalty for each injury. An operator who suffers a third injury is killed in action and lost forever, like you'll see in the tutorial. So all you need to do is get one of your operatives over to rally that target. If they're a medic, all the better, because medics revive slightly better than other operators. So we'll go over there. You'll notice that we'll walk within the Overwatch range, so we will be fired upon. But we then rally our cute little astromech friend. It now has this injury icon below its health bar, denoting the fact that it does have an injury, and when we return to the den, we're going to need to do something about that. He also revives with the full amount of action points he had left for that turn. Also, we could have knocked the enemy out of Overwatch by firing upon them before we ran through. We were just being slightly lazy. And you'll see when you do level up your bond, it's going to tell you, even in combat, that's gone up. Now, as Luco's separatist and Trick is obviously the Republic, they start with very low bond amounts. But we'll be able to level them up when we get back to the den, which I will show you right now. So we evac'd all of our operatives, the mission is a success, and we receive rewards. We get some credits, we get some intel, which is very important. It's the reason you want to do missions, and you get some bonuses based on what kind of mission you just did. We also see the bonds which have gone up. We have some between Trick and Luco, we have some between Hawks and Luco. And if you press shift, you can see everything that happened throughout combat to raise those bonds, so you can kind of farm the bond levels if you really want to by doing particular things. So after every mission, we'll return to the den, our base of operations.
Trick, you were on Umbar, right?
And we'll see little events like this. But I'll leave that up to you to discover on your own. Instead, I will skip through it and show you what exactly to expect. You can walk around the den, interacting with your companions, like so. I'll skip through it. Picking the right response may give you bond. So if I say not really here, it raises our bond. And you can see here the bond has increased up to the max tier, and we'll see what that does very soon. So I could walk around talking to all of my operators, including my custom operators here, like this BR1 droid. I can also do various things like customize my operators, like check out the black market and get more operators, check their bond levels, upgrade the den, and go on operations and missions. So let's start with customization. As you play the game, you'll unlock more things to customize your operatives with, but here's a custom operator. We can go to its profile, we can change the portrait style, we can change its origin, we can change his personality, which does affect operations within the den, which you'll see very soon. We can change the appearance, everything that is allowed within this particular race here. Humans get a lot more options. We can change the body, male and female, we can change the height, and we can change all of the outfits. All of these outfits are unlocked as you play the game and carry over into new games. We can have a different headpiece, we can have different body piece, arms, legs, and shoes, and they can all be changed color-wise. Your authored companions like Cab Uppercut here don't have as many options. They're quite restricted in terms of what they can actually wear and how you can change their appearance. Cab can't have his appearance changed, but he can change his cybernetic arm, can change his top, can change his boots, and so on. So once you go and buy a custom character, which you can do from the recruitment area just over here, all of these talent specializations and weapon classes can be changed. So can the name, so can the title, and the biography. So if I was to pick one here, my roster is currently full, so I can't buy one. But if I could change everything about this person. So let's just say I bought this person here. I could go back over to the customization area. I could change the race, the sex, the clothes, everything, the biography, everything. And then I would head over to this section here, the personnel section, and I could pick it. Let's just say it's Lars Arik here. I could pick it, go over to the focus tree, and I could change the specialization and the talents from this section here at any time. So I could be an assault and I could be a gunslinger, and there we go, fully reset. All my focus points are out, and then I can put them in as I see fit. Which brings us nicely into the personnel section. So you have a good overview of your characters here. You can see their health, their defense. Like I mentioned, defense is the amount of damage you block before it comes in. Your total movement, which is the combination of your 3 movements that you can make. The first one is going to cost 1 action point. Then if you go a little bit further, it'll be 2, and you go a little bit further, it'll be 3. So the maximum all adds up to 19 for this particular character. You can see the weapon they have equipped. You can see the mods on the weapon. We have nothing on this just now. You can see all the stats below, and then you can go directly into the armory to change all of that, but we'll hold off for now. You can also see the utilities like grenades they have equipped. You can see all their abilities. These are activatable. So all of these abilities can be granted via their specializations. Then we have all the passives. All of these passives can be granted via their specializations or via the bonds that they make with their fellow operators. If we go over to the focus tree, like I mentioned, you can change their specializations at any time. You start with only 1 specialization slot when you begin the game. After cycle 19, you unlock the ability to spec a character into a second specialization, gaining all of their passives and gaining all of their abilities. Each specialization has access to 2 passives usually, sometimes 3. In the case of the soldier, there's 3, and 1 ability and 1 ultimate. The ultimate almost always consumes advantage instead of action points. So when we've selected our specializations, you can see one of their passives can be upgraded, you can see their abilities can be upgraded, and you can see their ultimate can be upgraded using various amounts of focus points. You gain focus points from raising your bonds, which I'll go through soon, and sending characters on missions. And when you upgrade your den, leaving them at home gives them a small amount. Your custom characters can change their talents, As you can see, there's a range of talents for your custom characters, and these are no less valuable than your author companions talents are. For example, thievery here and espionage gives you credits and intel rewards respectively at the end of combat, and I pick these up almost every run I make just because I want that bonus intel and the bonus credits. But authored characters like Jade Mordant here have their own talent that can't be changed. You can see here the talent cannot be changed for the operator. You also have some operators like Talria here who have completely different abilities because they're a specialization that can't be changed. She's a Jedi Padawan and they have their own abilities, but once again, go through my specialization videos if you want more information on this. Instead, let's move over to bonds. This is essentially your experience. So I've got Talria selected here. You can see she hasn't bonded beyond the neutral point with any characters. Her highest bond level is with the main character. But if we go over to Hawks, you can see here he's bonded up to the very high amount with Trick. You can see here he's also not very bonded with our Mandalorian warrior. As you go up in ranks, it costs more and more bond to reach the next rank. But we can see here we've got 6 cross trainings available. That's when a particular pair reaches a new rank. So let's have a look at them all. We have Trick and Hawk here reaching the very high status, and that means they get a very powerful ability based on their specializations. For example, Resilience here gives them 10% of their max health every turn, making them very hard to kill. But I particularly like Behind the Lines because defeating an exposed target with a blaster or sidearm restores 1 action point, meaning you can keep your turn going. So let's confirm training with those two. Now we can see these 2 operators reach the low 2 rank, so they get some basic upgrades here. This is usually what it looks like when it's not at the max rank. So they can increase their Overwatch damage by 1, their range damage by 1, or their critical damage by 1. These are randomized, so you don't know what you're going to get until you have to make the decision. So I confirm training there. Now they both get +1 range damage. They don't have to be in a mission together, they just both get that. So you can see that these over time will make your operators much stronger. So the more you're making them work together, the more you're making them bond, the more you're bringing them to missions, the more powerful they become. Now we also need to load out our operators. So we go over to the Armory here and we can see the weapon tab. We can change particular weapons that our operators can use. Every specialization except the Astromech and the Jedi Padawan can use every weapon, though a little bit later on you'll unlock another weapon here for a particular type of person, which I won't spoil. But for example, I can pick the long arm blaster here. It's a sniper. I can then customize the appearance and I can change the type of sniper it is. This changes the firing animation and the sound effects, but it doesn't change it stat wise. You can then paint it, change how it looks, change the hilt, the cell, the base, change particular colors and so on. Then you can equip mods. Eventually you unlock 4 mod slots for 4 different types of mods. But as you can see here, I've only got 2 available right now. I've got 1 attached, which increases blaster damage by +3 when firing this blaster at close range. And I also have a scope here, which increases this operator's assist damage by +2. You'll find different rarities as you go, starting with basic, then superior, then exquisite, and there's one above that. Modifying your weapon for your particular playstyle with that operative is the way to go. For example, this dual amplifier here really rewards you for getting up close. 3 extra damage is quite a lot. That gets multiplied by your crit. You can also sell the mods you aren't using. You just click on it, press R, and you can sell it for an amount of credits. Then we have utilities. These are your grenades, your med packs, your smoke bombs, and other little tidbits like the targeting visor here, which you forgo essentially a slot for a grenade in order to give this operator a increased chance to hit and increased critical chance. So if they're the kind of operator that doesn't want to throw a lot of grenades or doesn't want to set up smoke bombs or doesn't want to heal, you can use things like these targeting visors. This is also where you find other weapons. There will be weapons like the scattergun, which can be equipped in an operator's utility slot, and it gives them another weapon that they can fire. Then we have the black market. As you upgrade this, you'll get increasingly higher rarity spawn here. So at the start of every cycle, you'll have a new range of items to buy. For example, this med pack here This is a superior quality one. You might find an exotic quality one here if you get lucky, but this keeps refreshing. So if you see something you really like, you might just want to buy it out. So that was the armory. Let's move over here to the area where we can upgrade the den. Now there are 3 tabs for facilities that you can upgrade, for crew facilities you can upgrade, and you can upgrade individual weapon types. These all cost an amount of credits and take a small amount of cycles to complete. And some might even cost a resource here called capacitors. Capacitors are fairly rare. You usually get these in operations if the operation goes well, and without them you can't do some of these later tier upgrades. As you can see, this one here costs 2. In order to unlock these other tiers, you need to raise your den level. Currently my den level is 5. I need much more den experience in order to get to rank 6. And when I get there, I'll unlock increased market inventory 2 to be able to be built. Once, of course, I build expedited delivery first. So it does go in order. You can't just get cheaper refresh before you get unlock black market. So you can upgrade your den. The upgrades I recommend you get is the droid repair bay that lets you build the astromech droids. I recommend you upgrade your influence so all of your contacts provide more influence on the map, but I'll go through that soon. And I also recommend unlocking the lounge here with teamwork. The reason for this is you just get experience, bond experience, for not sending operators on missions. So over time, they'll continue to get stronger even if you don't use them. Also, it has the nice little side effect of unlocking this lounge area within the den, and of course sometimes your companions hang out there and you can talk to them. Next to that area is your medbay. If you have an injured operative, you have 2 options. You can either put them in a bed or you can put them in a Bacta tank. Let's remove this one for now. The bed costs 800 credits to sit them in, and then they are out of commission for a full cycle. You need to come back after a mission in order for them to be recovered. It will fully recover them of all injuries, 1 or 2. If they get 3 injuries, they're just instantly dead, so you'll never need to recover 3. The Bacta tank costs 1,200 credits, but instantly heals them, so they're ready for a mission straight away. I mentioned they can permanently die, so you can see the setting here, permadeath. By default, it's enabled, and I recommend keeping it enabled. It adds some real stakes to the missions, otherwise you just feel like you can do anything without any consequence. Then we have Beskar mode. It makes it so you can't save scum, it just keeps one save file active and you can't reload to previous saves. You also have multiple difficulty settings: story, normal, hard, and expert. Now, expert is very, very difficult. I recommend playing through the game at least once before attempting this. If you do attempt it, just note you're probably going to down quite a few allies, even if you are quite good at the game. And I know, yes, that is a challenge. So after you've talked to everyone, you might want to head over here to the holo table. The reason you go on missions is so you get intel. I currently have 244 intel with a maximum of 250 that I can bank. You can spend that intel on these operations. You can see here, this particular operation for the Ring of Kafrene costs 25 intel and has an unknown reward. It also expires in 1 cycle. So if I was to not do this operation over here, that's going to expire in 1 cycle. When I come back from doing a mission, this will be gone. I won't be able to do this anymore. So let's have a look what happens. Let's execute it. You get a little bit of flavor here. You continue, then you need to make a choice. You can either gain additional focus points for the team, you also gain 2 contacts, or you can gain an item at the black market. This gives the black market another slot, or you can gain 2 contacts as well. So let's give everyone 2 focus points and we confirm that choice. There's no risk to it.
On to the next.
And a little side effect here is a few people liked that choice and a few people didn't. So there's bonds that go up and bonds that go down. We see the result of our choices. We get influence in a particular zone. We unlock a new mission. Everyone gets those 2 focus points like we mentioned, and we get the 2 contacts. So if we go over to the influence section, we just unlocked a reward for Zone Esk for getting enough influence in that zone. We got the Trauma Kit MK2. let's have a look at the galactic map. In this zone, we just unlocked the trauma kit. If we were to go up to the next tier, we'd unlock extra padding, +4 health for all our operators. And if we were to max out the influence in this zone, we get a gas dispenser Mark IV. So each of these zones here have different levels of influence, and if we want to improve that influence, we can do missions within those zones, we can do operations within those zones, or we can spend our contacts. Right now, sending a contact gives +9 influence. So if we go to zone 4 here, we need 18 influence in order to go up to the next tier. So let's send one contact and send another, and we get the tier 2 reward of this assassin scope. And that's generally how influence works. If you want a particular reward, like this prototype imploder, you're going to want to send contacts there. You're going to want to do operations over there, like this operation here, which will give influence in that zone. So when making a choice which operations to do with your limited intel, you might want to also consider what you want to influence. So back to the operations here. This particular operation has our authored character J here wanting us to do it. So it's most likely going to unlock another mission, or it's going to make her happy in some way. Trick also has something he wants done over here, but there are 3 cycles remaining, so we might want to do these ones here with the 1 cycle remaining. So let's do this one first.
Our team
We have a choice.
Any ideas?
We can use them as contacts, which will give us contacts, or we can gain 25 intel. In this particular case, I want some intel so I can do more missions, so I confirm that as a choice. And we see the rewards. We can see here that we got influence in that zone, and we got our 25 influence. Let's go over to this one here, which is about to expire in Ord Mantell. We need 1 operator to execute this mission and 50 intel. Now, some operations require you to choose particular operators to execute. Usually there's a hint within the text in terms of which operator is going to do the best, and if you pick the best one, you'll get a large reward. If you don't, you'll get an average reward, and if you pick a bad operator, you'll most likely fail and they'll get an injury. Remember, 3 injuries and they're dead for good. So we can assign an operator or we can decline request. Let's just pick a random operator. Let's pick Cab here and confirm. Cab made contact but was quickly rebuffed. Looks like we won't be fairing the package after all. This is because Cab failed. He was not the right person to send. Once again, if you work out the little code in the text there, you might discern which operator will do the best. And this includes your custom characters as well, because they all have their own personalities. Now, this is a crisis operation. You'll get crisis operations and crisis missions. Crisis operations usually have you choosing between the lesser of 2 evils. So let's have a look. We only have time to sabotage 1 elite coil training program. So whichever one we don't sabotage will be the one that we have to deal with for the rest of the game. So either the coil's captain's heal now removes negative status effects, or brutes are immune to daze, vulnerable, and shock. In my particular case, I'm actually using a build where I make them vulnerable, I daze them, and I shock them, so I don't want them to be immune to that. So I want to sabotage this section here, so I will confirm that choice.
That's a wrap.
Our saboteur ensured we won't be seeing brutes with dull senses. This also means that we can't avoid the captains now healing and removing those negative status effects. So although this game is about controlling the chaos, what works best for us and what works against us the least. Now we have a bit of intel remaining, so we might as well do tricks. Let's execute that. Now we need to assign operators to go with Trick, and we can either give them +4 max health or plus 0.25 meters first movement. I like being able to move a little further. Movement is very important in this game. So let's assign operators. We can pick 3. Let's pick Trick himself. Let's pick Luco, and let's pick Cly. These will all get bond together by working together, as you can see. So that's another way to level up your companions. But they also get that movement bonus permanently. Zone Besh also gets the influence. We still have some intel, so we'll be able to do one or the other. Let's do Ord Mantell's one because it's the big one. It costs 100 intel. Let's do it. Now we need to choose an operator who's maybe good at arm wrestling. Who could that be? Maybe we should assign Cab, because Cab has massive arms and used to be a boxer. So let's assign him to that.
Fighting pessimism shattered.
And you can see it's a critical success. We get 2,000 credits and we get influence. Sometimes you'll get exotic items. So that is operations. Now that we're done with the operations, you usually won't have this much intel. I just wanted a lot so I could show you how to do everything. Usually you'll have to let some of these missions go, some of these missions expire. You'll see here that we also reached tier 1 in Zone Besh because of our operations. After you do all your operations, after you spend the amount of intel you want, you go to the mission section. There'll be a bunch of missions you can choose between. Some might expire, some you might need to choose between, but in this particular case, we have a critical mission that we need to go on, and critical missions require you to bring Hawks. Your non-critical ones, you can bring anyone you want. You don't have to bring Hawks to your non-critical missions. You'll see the rewards on the side, and you'll see the amount of operators that you can bring with you, and then you'll be back into combat, which I've already showed off. Over time, you'll see a lot more crisis missions pop up. You'll need to make a choice between 2 planets and what downside you'll be taking. You can see all the active coil upgrades over here. These are all the upgrades that I have had to accept over the course of this campaign. A little bit later, without spoiling things will change quite dramatically, but that's everything you really need to know in order to start Zero Company and thrive. If I haven't covered something that you want to know about, please let me know in the comments below and I'll get to it. Thank you so much to EA for giving me early access and for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, ciao friends.